Welcome to the Lovecraft eZine
Step on
podcast.
the ball.
This is March 15, 2020. Um, and nothing to talk about, I guess. There's nothing going on in the world, anything like that.
Such a boring week.
I know, but uh, we'll talk about the elephant in the room a little bit later. But I just thought that this would be a good opportunity for us to just, not have a guest and just chat, talk about fun stuff. Um, Much like we do in the second hour, we'll just do it the whole time. Before I forget, there's a viewer by the name of Robert Knight, and I don't think I've given him a shout out since he started doing this, but he helps. I won't bore you with the details, but he helps me with the audio edition of the Lovecraft Evening podcast. So let's do intros and then we'll go from there. I'm Mike Davis, Lovecraft Evening. Bridget.
Hi, I'm Bridget Brenmark. I'm a composer and I create art. I make music boxes of the macabre.
And how can they get to your website? Because I know you've got some on sale now.
Yeah, it's bridgetbrenmark.com. I'll post the link here in the eZine chat. And but if you Google Bridget #Brenmark.com, I've got all kinds of stuff on there and more stuff that will be added soon.
Yeah, Cthulhu Music Box. Stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I'm almost done with my Dagon music box, so that'll be cool.
Uh, Pete.
What? Oh, yeah. I'm Pete Rollick, so you don't have to. I read, I write, I edit. Right now, off from work for at least a week. So,
You too, huh?
yeah. I got to go get a VPN ticket tomorrow.
Well, spring break was just over here.
Spring week doesn't start for another week here.
Well, I was going to say that now it's been extended for at least another week.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to have my wife home for such a long period of time. I don't like the reason, of course, but I'm glad to have her here. Bridget, I assume you know that these these music boxes go to the host of the show for free. No, I know you can't do that. They're expensive to make. I'm just giving you a hard time. Rick.
Rick Lay, writer of obscure stories.
All right. Sean.
I'm Sean Hamill, author of A Cosmology of Monsters and nothing else yet. Hopefully some more stuff soon.
Yeah. And again, for those who don't know this, Stephen King read it and liked it, so look that book up and buy it and read it. And guys, just so you know when we have a guest that frequently you guys will mute. I don't think this is anything the audience sees, but I'm not sure. You don't no need to do that today unless you want to. So, because we're just going to be having a fun conversation. Heather, speaking of muted.
Unmute. Heather Landry, artist. Stuff is at sandpaperdaisy.com. How's it going?
And Ben.
I'm Ben Handelman. I help Mike with the technical aspects of some of this.
Yes, shout out to Ben Handelman.
Thankfully led to us getting a nice little Joe Pulver visit a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully when he's feeling better, he can return again.
What's that you got there, Pete? Hold that up.
That is my Mandy brought these octopus themed cocktail glasses.
How much have you had?
Nice.
This is my third glass of sangria. So.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I hope you brought enough for the class.
Well, there's money for the class. All you have to do is come to West Palm Beach and get some.
Well, that sounds fun.
That's not that far a drive for me.
If we're showing off things, this is Dagon.
Cool.
Cool. Who made him?
They sell this from a company called Reaper. You can buy it on Amazon. You got to glue it together.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Does he have
Are you gonna paint him?
I'm not good at painting, so I'm going to leave it this way. They make some of crappier models, but they make a pretty decent Cthulhu. But I have tons of Cthulhu
Yeah.
statues, so the Dagon statues that you get in Cthulhu Wars and even Death May Die, those role-playing games, to me don't look like a Dagon. They look more like sea monsters, sea serpents, and the one in Cthulhu Wars looks like a sort of a seal-type creature.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Heather.
Wait, what about Rich?
Rich? Oh my God. I'm sorry, Rich. The scroll thing, I'm still not used to the the panel scroll thing at the top. So sorry about that.
That's all right. Nope. Bearded guy with a library.
There we go. See, I'm always looking out for you, Rich.
You sure are. That's why I'm going to have your books front and center.
Aww.
Aww.
That's why he deserves the humanitarian award.
Give me all that warm and fuzzy.
That's right. So I think Melissa, she's a panelist, but she's working today, meant to send this to all of us, but sent it to Heather. So, and Heather, what is it? What did she give us?
Okay, it is this neat. She found this blog, which I guess is nightworms.com/blogs, and it's she found all these people who are voluntarily giving away for free or for a reduced rate all these neat horror stories and Lovecraftian stories that we can read if we're bored, perhaps, and stuck at home for a while.
I just posted the link on the sidebar. So
yeah, so there's like a lot of neat looking stuff in there.
Yeah, there's, let's see, Michael Bailey making his books free on Amazon Kindle from 314 to 318.
Philip Fracassi.
Philip Fracassi, his two.
Lionel.
Bracken McLeod. Obviously, you guys listening can click the link in the sidebar chat, the viewer sidebar chat, and look for yourself. But this is pretty nice of these guys and gals, I'm sure. So we were going to have a guest today, and he very kindly agreed to be rescheduled. I'm going to have him on April 16th, I think it is. I just want to shout out about his new book, Plantation Pan. It's sort of a sequel of sorts to The Great God Pan. And it's available in paperback, as you just saw, but it's also available for Kindle, and it's on Kindle Unlimited. So, if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read this for free. And then I got sent a advanced reading copy of this book, which is called Fractured Tide by Leslie Lutz. Lost meets stranger things in this eerie, immersive young adult thriller. However, this looks like anything that an adult would like too. And when I find some adults, I'll ask them. Yeah, I won't read the whole synopsis, but look it up. It's not out quite yet, but it just, from what I've read, it's really good so far. And last but not least, I was at Barnes & Noble and saw a book that I wanted that was way too expensive, so I didn't get it. And I got it on Audible. And if I can find... And I can't find. Anyway, it's about these kids who get this... You know what? I'm just going to put it in here. On Amazon. Good Game by Danny Toby. Alright, so here's the synopsis. You're invited. Come inside, and this is not young adult fiction, although of course they would enjoy it. Come inside and play with God. Bring your friends. It's fun, but remember the rules. Win and all your dreams come true. Lose, you die. So I'm kind of interested in that. Charlie and his friends enter the God Game, a video game run by underground hackers and controlled by a mysterious AI that believes it's God. Through their phone screens and high-tech glasses, the teens' realities blur with a virtual world of creeping vines, smoldering torches, runes, glyphs, gods, and mythical creatures. And I'm like, okay, now they really got me. Um, and I'm really enjoying this book. I got it for Audible since I had a free credit. So so check that out. Um, is everybody? Is anyone here still watching Doctor Who?
I am.
I haven't.
I'm okay with it.
I know what you're talking about. I won't spoil it, even though I haven't seen it. Seen those 2 episodes. I'm going to watch them tonight because they have really piqued my interest about it. So I guess that's something we just can't discuss.
I'm just gonna say I think they did a very good job of answering mysteries that other writers didn't bother to explain.
Okay. Did we talk about before? Did we talk about? I think we did. The Color Out of Space.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, have you all seen it except for me?
Nope.
I haven't watched it yet. I've got the disc. I just haven't had time.
Yeah.
I'm going to subject my mother to it tonight, but yeah, I've already seen it once.
What about The Lighthouse? Matt showed it on movie night a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I watched it on movie night. It was interesting.
Yeah.
Seen it.
That's a good adjective for it.
Yeah.
There's nothing
John didn't
about
like
that movie that says "Watch me."
What?
I'm
Pete?
with John on this one. Yeah.
For me, there's nothing about that movie that says "Watch me." I have no.
And this is to put this in perspective. You watch all kinds of horrible movies,
I watch all kinds of horrible.
and you
stuff.
don't want to watch this.
I've seen the Two Guys in a Lighthouse movie like 4 times now.
But have you seen it in black and white?
Yes.
I want to know
Yeah.
what these other Two Guys in the Lighthouse movies are.
Well, there's this one where it's like on an island in the middle of nowhere, and the one guy's raping a deep one.
What?
Oh goodness!
Crazy.
That's as far as I need to go.
What movie is this?
There was a Russell Crowe on. What was that one?
You know which one I'm talking about.
Let me just say, Aquaman handled this much better. The first, I don't, what is it, 15 minutes of Aquaman? It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's much better. And they even tossed
Cold
a
Skin.
crap novel for no reason.
Cold skin.
Cold Skin, I think it's called.
Yeah, you're right. I haven't seen it, but you're right. Okay, so looks like some of you like The Lighthouse, some of you don't. So,
Someday I'll get around to it, but there's so much stuff that I'm interested in.
yeah, I hear you.
If you want to watch two guys go insane, I guess that's the still time.
Yeah, like if it was even two guys. I mean, I assume it is for real supposed to have been two guys, not just the one guy, but I don't know.
Yeah, it
man,
is
it's
hard to
trippy. Yeah.
I agree. You kind of wonder, did he kill the other guy early in the movie and he's just talking from his imagination of him? Who knows?
Yeah, especially since it's apparently partially based on the one time that actually happened. So, or maybe there's not just one time it actually happened, but there was like a famous time that it actually happened.
I think
didn't the director pull from like a bunch of historical documents and stuff, like journal entries and logs, like the one that Willem Dafoe keeps in the movie?
Maybe.
Yeah, he used actual journal diary entries of lighthouse keepers who were losing their minds, which is why the dialogue is so strange in some cases.
I think I'd really like being a lighthouse keeper, but I don't think they really need it anymore this day and age. Right?
Well, no, they're not really needed. A lot of that stuff is automated. But I know that there are some lighthouses that are unautomated, but they're for sale.
You could get one and turn it into a radio station.
Yeah.
Like in the fog.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understood that
Awesome
reference.
lighthouse movie ever.
or what was it? Pirate. There was a radio station that was on one of the.
Off the English coast in the '60s, Pirate Radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah.
Well, the one I was thinking of was The Vanishing with Russell Crowe.
Oh yes.
I like that one better personally, I think.
Russell Crowe. I don't even remember this movie.
It's pretty good.
The Vanishing. Okay.
Yeah, The Vanishing. At least it's more, you've got more people, it's more of a conspiracy. There's still some parts where you're like not sure what's real and what's not, but it's
I like those kind of movies.
it's a little bit more of a mystery thriller, I guess.
Yeah.
Is it based on like the Ilian Moore lighthouse mystery or something, or is it just like a fancy?
The one loosely based on the one off of Scotland. Yes.
Okay,
Off the West Coast of
I think that's the one. Yeah.
So, all right, let's do this. What are you guys watching and reading right now? And just you guys all don't have to answer, or you all can. It's just up to you.
So in the last 3 days, I finished a British series called Unforgotten, which is about essentially it's a cold case crime series. Each season represents one case. It's on 3 cases. It's got 3 seasons right now. It was really, really good. And then I watched 5 seasons of DCI Banks, which is another British show. 5 seasons. Each season's 3.
Have you seen Shetland and have you seen Whitechapel?
I have seen Shetland. Shetland I found horrifically depressing.
I know, that's why I like it.
I watch a lot of British crime drama, and I found Shetland just bleak.
I want to live there. It's just it suits my personality just very well.
And then
yeah, I might be the host, but I'm not exactly an extrovert. So sorry, Pete. Go on.
I watched this afternoon while I was cleaning my library up. I watched a show called The Secret of Craigley Hall, which is the only.
Is that a James Herbert
Yes.
novel?
Is it James Herbert or John Saul?
I thought it was James Herbert, but I
I
could be
think it's
wrong.
James Herbert. Yeah.
How is that?
It was actually surprisingly well done. It's got a pretty good cast. It's got the girl who played the Forever Girl from Doctor Who. It's got David Warner in it. Really surprisingly well done. It's a nice little ghost story.
Let me pause you for a second, Pete. I apologize, but I'll forget this if I don't say it now. Eduardo in the chat said people have been worried that Pattinson would not play a good Batman because of his role in Twilight, but I think he's a great actor. I just want to say this. I'm very, very excited about the upcoming Batman movie. I mean, how many times has a Batman actor been announced and a lot of Batman fans said no, he's not going to do a good job? Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, whatever. So, I've always adopted this wait and see attitude when these things are announced. But what I'm really looking forward to is this seems to be some sort of adaptation of The Long Halloween, I've heard. And the director said it's going to be more focused on Batman as the world's greatest detective. So, and you and I have talked about this, Pete, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's,
I can't wait.
Pattinson, look, you can go to any actor and pick their worst role.
Oh, sure.
And say, oh my God, after this, they should never do anything again. I mean, Michael Caine did Jaws, 3 in 3D?
Or
Christopher Lee in that second Howling movie, I think it was.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton and Mr. Mom.
Mr. Mom, right. Every actor does a movie for the money.
Yeah, everybody's like, Mr. Mom can't be Batman. Are you kidding me?
Here's the thing.
Christopher Walken in Curse
really
of the Bog Mummy. That's a good one. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. But, Pattinson He was in Twilight, but he's been in a lot of other things too that he did that were really good.
Harry Potter, he played an interesting character and did a great job, I thought.
Yeah. So he has some range, and I'm willing to let's see what happens.
And let's not forget, he's the other guy in the lighthouse.
Yeah.
So.
Oh well, yeah, he did do a good job. Then I mean, they did a good job, in my opinion.
Yeah. Anything else, Pete? That's what you've been watching. What about reading?
That's what I've been watching. I'm reading Dark Tales from the Secret War. It's an Acton Cthulhu short story collection. And I just got this today, so I'm gonna break and start reading this. My friend Dave Godsword, Sun, Sand, and Sea Serpents. It is a review of sea serpents in Florida. And he's done a really, really good job of actually going back and doing things that other authors should have done.
Damn it. That was going to be my next book. Now I can't do it.
Yeah, I know.
Rick? No,
Rick?
I thought he was going to say something. Okay, who else wants to pipe up with what they're reading and watching?
I finished an audiobook of David Weber's book, Out of the Dark. It's an alien invasion of the Earth, and there's a Dracula angle towards the end, which kind of threw me for a loop. But I thought it was really well done. I'm also reading a history of rabies. And then I'm watching Containment on Netflix, which I think is a really good series.
Everybody apparently is watching Containment.
No, thank you. When I watch something, I want to get away from it, What's going on in the world?
It's the #1 movie on Netflix right now, I think.
You're kidding me.
No.
I didn't realize that.
I saw an article saying that a bunch of pandemic thrillers are selling huge right now. Like Chuck Wendig's last book, I think, has had a huge spike in sales, even though it's been out for like a year now. So it's a weird thing that people do.
Yeah. And this is kind of like the movie Scream in a way, especially the first one, where I forget his name in the video store says, if the authorities go about this always the wrong way. If they watch Fright Night and The Howling and I don't know what movies he lists and Nightmare on Elm Street, they'd know what to do. So Kelly Young told me, obviously nobody in leadership has watched a zombie movie.
I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Well, we got to keep our sense of humor, right?
No.
No.
All
right. You're no longer allowed to be funny. You lost your sense of humor. Okay. Anybody else?
I think it's not
1970 schlock.
What?
Well, I totally talked over somebody. So who went?
You go, Heather, and then we'll have Ben.
Okay. I went to like a book warehouse on a daddy-daughter date with my dad the other day, and I deliberately got like the schlockiest looking 1970s sci-fi novels that I could find. Like I ran out of money, or else I would have also gotten the one that had like a velociraptor as a sea captain. Like I don't know what that was all about, but it looked amazing.
Oh, that's
but I was out of money at that point.
That's Farseer by Robert J. Sawyer.
Yes, Farseer. Yes.
That's a really good book.
So do I need to go back and like get it?
Yeah, it's a really good book, and I think it's out of print.
Much like many 70s sci-fi books.
In Evansville, Indiana.
Did Sawyer write Godwave? And
I don't think it's Godwave. He wrote he's written a bunch of stuff. One of them was adapted into a television series.
There is another one by him too. Like there's two of them next to each other in that warehouse for real.
The Farseer book is a 3-book series.
Okay.
But he did this great book called Calculating God, in which aliens arrive and reveal that there's 5 alien species that are within flying distance of Earth, and every single one of them have experienced the biblical plagues and floods, and we've all
Well,
decided
shoot, I'm just making a note here to go give Farseer then.
God really exists.
I love finding 70s sci-fi novels in used bookstores, Sorry, Ben, what?
I was just saying Farseer and Calculating God are good. I wouldn't read and Flash Forward, which they tried to turn into a TV series.
Right.
I wouldn't touch anything else Robert Sawyer wrote. Most of it is pretty bad.
You didn't like the Neanderthal books?
I hated those books. Those in particular are the worst.
I got a credit in those.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I play a voice on the phone. I forget which character. In Call Girls of Cthulhu, but that doesn't make it a good movie,
Oh my god!
Without spoiling it,
Is that for true? Is that true? What?
Is that
What?
true, Mike?
Yeah, that's true.
That's a real movie?
Yeah, Call Girl of Cthulhu is a real movie.
Well, that
Yeah,
needs
I
to
don't
be
know if
on
I'm
the
credited or
group.
not. I don't
You know what I'm watching after we get done?
Oh my god.
Yeah, I gotta check this one out.
They did it a few years ago, and I was like, oh, okay, we've seen this before. And then the guy comes to me, really nice guys, and they're like, we'd really like somebody in the Lovecraftian community, who's kind of an icon in the Lovecraftian community to do this. And I'm like, well, you're talking to the wrong guy.
You usually farm that stuff out to me.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I usually do. But in this case, all I had to do was follow the script that they emailed me, and then send them the sound file. So, yeah, those bastards didn't credit me.
Yeah.
See, this is why I don't have millions. They didn't credit me in the. But yes, that's my voice. That's my voice in a phone call. I think these guys' boss or something. I don't remember what. I don't even remember who I played. So yeah. And it doesn't make it a good movie that I was in it. That's what I was trying to say. So.
Well, then
Too late. We're all gonna watch it now.
You can still play Batman then.
I can still play Batman?
Yeah.
I might need to get in shape.
You can play Fat Man.
Ouch! That hurt.
Unkind.
Is that like Blunt Man and Chronic?
Okay, let's go on to the next topic. Who else? Who else wants to talk about what they've been reading and watching?
Yeah, so to get back to the Robert Sawyer thing, the Neanderthal books are, it's sort of like there's a parallel world where the Neanderthals, who in this universe are a separate species from Homo sapien. So it's kind of maybe 15, 20 years ago it was written, so it's a little bit older science, but they became the dominant human species on Earth. And so it's like these scientists sort of cross over into a Neanderthal scientist crosses over into our world, and sort of how that plays out. It's not good. Like the premise sounds interesting until you find out that the Neanderthals are just sort of like Robert Sawyer's idea of a perfect like utopia, and his politics and everything. And I mean, there's some sex scenes in it that are really weird. It's just, I don't recommend it. And a lot of his books, like he wrote, have you guys heard of the NPC thing? People calling each other NPCs and stuff?
Yeah, I heard of it.
So it's the idea that online, people that you're talking to, they're not actually capable of sentient thought. They just imitate stupid opinions.
The Turing test, that kind of thing.
He actually wrote a novel, like, pushing this idea. I mean, and he's not the kind of person that would normally use that term. He's very liberal, but it's just, I don't know. I love Calculating God. That was the first one I read. I thought it was a great premise, and when you read it, there's some really great exploration of the ideas of, what if an alien shows up and what was the back of the book say? An alien shows up and asks to see your theologist or something.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting premise. The idea that the aliens are like, no, there is a creator. Here's all this proof, and how that affects society and how that affects the story. It's really interesting. And to be clear, we're not talking like a Judeo-Christian concept of a creator. It's completely divorced from that stuff. But it's really fascinating. I'd highly recommend it. The Farseer trilogy I thought was amazing. Those are written in, Pete, is it the 80s?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe early 90s.
I know when I tracked them down, it was actually kind of hard to get them. I think I paid like $30 for the first volume.
Yeah, they're hard to find.
But those were great. And it's the idea that it's sort of like a dinosaurs evolved into a humanoid species, and you're sort of following like the dinosaur version of Galileo in the first volume, for example. Really,
You've been reading this lately? Is that what you're saying?
No. I was just clarifying or sort of expanding on what Pete said because the.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I'll get to what I was reading in a second. Forward, it's whole world blacks out, and they see like several minutes of the future 20 years from now, and then sort of
flash forward, yeah.
They come back to the present. It's not like the movie at all, and it's not great, but it's kind of a fun, almost like a mystery. It's pretty good. It's sort of like a fun, you'll read it quickly. But other than that, I keep trying his books, and I keep getting disappointed because he's just I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I promise that Neanderthal book series is pretty terrible. For me, so last weekend when we didn't do a show, I went to a paperback convention here in Los Angeles. So I got to go talk to Larry Niven, who's one of my favorite writers. He wrote Ringworld, which is one of the great science fiction classics. If you haven't read it, everyone should go read it. He also he has a lot of great short stories in this universe called Known Space, and a few novels. So I've been kind of reading some of those, like Protector. So Protector is this sort of the idea that Homo habilis was not native to Earth, that it was another species that came here, and sort of like what happens if the originator sort of finds us. And I don't want to go into more detail than that because it's complex and goes in some weird directions. But it's a lot of fun, and it's a short novel. I think it was written in the 70s.
What are you watching?
Picard is the only thing I've been watching.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny because Picard just brought up the Zinti, which are
the
Larry Niven.
So Michael Chabon, the author, is the showrunner, and he emailed Larry Niven to get permission to use the Kzinti just to reference them, because back in the early 70s, Larry Niven was one of the science fiction authors they picked to write a Star Trek story, in this case for the animated series. And they kept rejecting what he was writing. So Gene Roddenberry called him up and asked to use a story called The Soft Weapon, which the episode, I believe, is called The Slaver Weapon. And so he uses the Kzinti in Star Trek this one time. And then, so this is something he explained at a signing I was at about 10 years ago. He was fine with it. He actually was writing a comic strip for the LA Times for Star Trek that had the Kzinti in it. And then they did a novelization of his Star Trek episode without him. Alan Dean Foster novelized it as part of the Star Trek log series. And he was a bit upset about that. He felt like they were competing with him with his own property. So that was sort of the end of his working with them. And so Michael Chabon emailed him because he was a big fan of the Known Space books and got permission to reference them. Of course, when I asked him about this, he didn't remember this at all. And I'm like, wait, are you sure? Because here, so I showed him the Instagram story where Chabon asked, like, hey, can I reference your story? And he's like, oh, yeah, I may have given permission for that. So.
Well, I just watched the latest episode of Picard this morning. And this is the 8th episode. And when it was over with, we won't get into spoilers, obviously, but when it was over with, I yelled, God damn it, at the screen because I'm so mesmerized by this plot, especially with this latest episode. The only thing I'll say about this latest episode, and hopefully we can talk about it with spoilers sometime in the future, but I don't go around labeling everything Lovecraftian or cosmic horror, but man, that latest episode was dark as hell and very Lovecraftian.
I would agree.
It also had some good comedy in it, though, too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. What stood out to me is So consistently throughout the whole show, Rios has been my favorite character.
Yeah, he's great.
Of this guy and his 5 holograms that are. So they took sort of the idea that was created in Voyager that you could have an emergency hologram program do stuff for you. So he has 5 emergency holograms. There's medical, tactical, hospitality, engineer, and
Navigation.
But when he started the ship, and so basically they're all him, but with different accents and personalities, and
they're hysterical.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just can't wait for next Thursday because it's been consistently good, but I mean, it just went wide open on this latest episode. That's all I want to say.
I have I don't want to I don't know this, but I have a suspicion that we're going to see somebody, a villain from the original Next Generation.
I know who you're talking about. We'll see.
Yeah.
So, okay. Anybody else want to pipe up with what they're watching, reading?
But let me just tie this back in. Larry Niven is a big Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
Planet of one of his novels. I can't think of the name. Planet of Tovs. World of Tovs.
World of Tovs. I actually have 2 signed copies over there.
Yeah, I've got a signed copy. But World of Tovs is essentially a Lovecraftian story. They find a statue under the water that's full of tentacles and a single giant eye. Turns out that it's not a statue, it's somebody frozen in time. And when they wake it up, it tries to take over the planet. In Legacy of Herat, the river that the colonists on this planet are on, they name the Miskatonic.
Yep.
And then in Dream Park.
So they were at this convention pushing the sequel, the latest sequel to Legacy of Herat, which comes out, I think in 2 weeks it comes out.
Okay.
You can get the ebook from Bain already. But I talked to Larry, and then I talked to Stephen Barnes, who's his co-writer on it as well. Stephen Barnes is pretty amazing, by the way. Written everything, African-American science fiction writer. I keep trying to sell him on mic quite a bit. He's written Batman, Star Wars, Star Trek. He's writing in the new series of The Twilight Zone, the new season, and he explicitly said he hated the previous season, and to quote him, it was, "I'm an SJW, but I just wanted to tell the TV to shut the hell up after a while."
Yeah, that was Doctor Who.
So he said that in the second season, they actually gave an executive producer role to Jordan Peele. So he'd suggested writers in the first season, and they ignored him. So he's one of the authors that Jordan Peele selected for the second season.
He's African American, correct?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, and he's getting sick of it.
And
which says a lot.
Yeah, he hated it.
Yeah.
So Ben,
I hated it
here's
too.
a small world. Stephen Barnes's wife, Tananarive Due, did an article about me in the 90s.
See, this is, well...
Was it called Pete Rollick in the 90s?
I will bring that up when I talk to him. I have his contact information. He wanted me to read the latest Legacy of Herat sequel first, and I need to reread the first 2 because I haven't read them since the 90s, and that's a long time ago for me, unlike, say, Mike.
So Nathan in the chat says that I'm listed at Internet Movie Database under Call of Cthulhu in the Special Thanks category.
Famous.
I did not get paid for this either.
Aw.
So,
uncredited it.
Yeah, I'm trying to break into movies, and that was my first and last attempt. So, anybody else? Or we got? Yeah,
I can pipe up. So a friend of mine actually has a book coming out next week called The Return. I got to read it last year, but I figured this would be a good week to talk about it. I think it's out on the 20th.
Sounds familiar.
It's called The Return. Rachel Harrison wrote it. It's got a bright pink neon cover. I wish I'd grabbed my copy before we started the show. I might go grab it later, but it's sort of a I wouldn't say it's Lovecraftian. But it's about basically this group of women who were best friends in college, and one of them went missing for like 2 years, and then showed up with no memory of uh, who she was or where she'd been.
I
And
like
so
it
they have
already.
these,
That's a great premise.
Yeah, sounds cool.
right,
Who
and
hasn't done that?
right, yeah, Pete Rollick in the '90s. But anyway, so they go on this girls' weekend to this obscure, like, little hotel up in the Catskills, and they sort of get stranded there, and it becomes apparent that what came back is not exactly the person they lost over the course of this weekend. It's really good. It's a page turner, and if you're Rachel, a lot of her events have been canceled because of all the crap going on in the world. So I would highly encourage anybody, get it for your Kindle or have it delivered by your local bookstore if you can. It'll really help her out, and it's definitely worth your money. So I just wanted to pitch that real quick.
When does it come out?
Let me double check. I believe it's March 20th.
Oh, right. Her I'm assuming this is her marketing person or publicist sent me an email. I knew I'd seen this somewhere. Um, duh, duh, duh. Female-centric horror is at the front and center of today's pop culture. I'm reading from her email to me.
Ah,
Rachel Harrison's debut novel is not only perfect for those fans, but for newcomers to the genre as well. The Return is a masterful blend of gruesome horror and mystery set during a girls' reunion weekend gone wrong. Her publicist wanted me to. There's something on March the 25th.
yeah, the book is actually out the 24th, so that's probably the day after.
Yeah, well,
I
there's
was
like
off by a
this.
week.
I guess she's doing a big Skype um, call or something from 9 a.m. Pacific to. No, I'm sorry, 9 a.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern. I replied to Heather and I said I can't make that time, but I went on to introduce the podcast and listed some people who's been on that are high profile and asked for an arc, and I didn't get a reply. Maybe that's not something that she wants to do, but if you're friends with her, maybe you could bring it up to her.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
will.
mean, I'd love to
I'll,
get her on the show. I mean, with the more female artists, writers that we can promote, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Besides, it sounds like a really, I love the premise of this. I knew
oh,
it sounded
yeah,
familiar.
it's a page turner. I couldn't put it down.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll talk to her and see if we can, yeah, get you a copy and get her on the show.
Okay, great. Anybody else before I switch to the next topic?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
I read Robert M. Price's Horrors and Heresies.
What's that about?
Now, it's, as we all know, Bob is a apostle of atheism as well as a little business writer.
Right.
So it combines all his atheistic horror stories, many of which are Cthulhu oriented. Now, I'm not an atheist, but I did enjoy this a lot. It's very intellectually stimulating, besides being very clever in a few places. Because he has a story in there called The Savage Sword of Jehu, in which he takes an Old Testament story and rewrites it in the style of Robert E. Howard.
Ooh, that sounds neat.
He's also got a story from the New Testament that he rewrites as a Son of Hercules movie. Or I could say more in the style of a Son of Hercules movie. It's the Son of Jehovah versus the Cyclops. So there's a lot of very witty things in here. And I recommend it. Now, I discovered this first on YouTube. In the 1960s, the creators of The Outer Limits tried to create a companion horror series called The Haunted, which would have starred Martin Landau as a psychic investigator.
What's the title of that for the audio listeners, Rick?
Now, it was really called The Haunted.
Okay.
The pilot episode was going to be called The Ghost of Sierra de Cobra. That's Cobra, Cobre. And that was released, was added footage as a movie, theatrically. Now on YouTube, if you look for this, you can find the television version. But on DVD for about $11 from Amazon, you get both the television and the movie version. The movie version, I really enjoyed the television version. It had a good storyline, great special effects, as good as the best they ever had on the outer limits. And when I got this DVD and I was watching the movie version, I was thinking, this really isn't that much better than what they did on television. They're just adding extra footage which has more exposition and character development, but it's kind of removing from the suspense until I hit the ending, which is vastly different. And that's worth buying it on DVD.
Rick, was Martin Landau the guy from Space 1999?
Yes, and Mission Impossible.
And the X-Files movie. Nobody has anything to say to that.
Now, I also saw a 1961 movie that I had never heard of before. This is on YouTube, called Night Tide with Dennis Hopper. And it's basically Val Newton's Cat People rewritten as a Lovecraftian story involving ancient races from the sea. It's about a woman who believes herself to be part of a group called the Sea People, which were the basis for the Sirens. It is like Turn of the Screw, and then it might be supernatural. There's a possible rational explanation for it. You're gonna have to decide that at the end, because there is an unreliable witness, and whether you believe him or not is up to you.
Okay.
It's a very well done. It doesn't mention Roger Corman in the credits, but I looked it up. He was involved in marketing it, at least. And the last thing, I finally saw the miniseries 11/23/63.
What'd you think?
I like that a lot. I have been holding off on it because I wanted to read the Stephen King book first, but I just hadn't been getting around to it. The one thing I would criticize, and I had to look it up on Wikipedia, besides going back in time to prevent Kennedy's assassination, he goes back in time and tries to change something else that's related to a friend of his.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And when he comes back to the future, he looks up that friend and he gets an explanation of why certain things happening. And you don't get, you know what happened, but you don't get a good explanation of why it happened.
Mm.
And I had looked it up in the Wikipedia article. I kind of guessed part of it. That's my only complaint. Otherwise, it's superb. It just, I really didn't think this was going to work because I had seen it on Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
There had already been some TV movie where they had this plot. And the new Twilight Zone used it too. But King surpasses all of them, which shows that if you have a very smart, intelligent writer, he can take something that somebody used before and improve on it immensely.
Well, I couldn't put the book down. I can't say that's true. I like Stephen King. I like that one more than most. You know, I read it in like a day and a half. I just didn't stop reading. Very
I could
well done.
see. I couldn't stop watching it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask? That's related to the Bill Hodges books, right?
No,
No,
no.
it's not.
You have the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, and you have the
Yeah.
Outsider, and then there's a novella coming out this fall. Mike, is that correct? As part of a collection.
I'm not getting the reference.
Okay, you have the Mr. Mercedes trilogy. It's 3 books.
Oh, right.
That's the Bill Hodges
Oh,
trilogy.
you're talking about
The
Let It Bleed.
Outsider, the Outsider includes Holly Gibney from
Yes.
that trilogy, and then there's going to be a sequel to the Outsider that's a novella,
Let It, If It Bleeds, something like that.
and that comes out in the fall, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
He
who,
released like the first page of it or something.
who is Bill Hodges?
He's so in the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, he's a
Oh, he's the-
retired detective,
Okay, he's the character from that. Okay.
The
retired, and a case that he never solved where someone drives their Mercedes into a crowd. That the person who did that like wanted more attention and started reaching out to him, so he decides to try to solve the case and sort of a private detective kind of way. I love the trilogy. I highly recommend it.
you know
That's
I
something else.
The Outsider, to be clear,
I have
even
to
though
get.
a character crosses over.
I have to get it. I have Mr. Mercedes. I just haven't got around to reading it.
I'll have to get around to reading it. I will tell you this: I loved the miniseries. Uh, I don't remember his name. The guy that played the detective in the miniseries. I love that actor.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I've seen him in, but I thought he did a superb job.
He was in Captain Marvel. You're
Oh, was
talking
he?
about the Outsider, right?
Yes, The Outsider.
He
I'm
was,
sorry.
he was in Captain Marvel as the Skrull, and he was in Rogue One as the villain.
Oh, Ben Mendelsohn. Yeah, he's
Yes.
awesome.
Well, I really enjoyed the book. I really enjoyed the miniseries up until the last episode. Again, no spoilers, but I thought it was very anticlimactic. I think Ben and Kelly disagree with me, but um,
Not having read the book, I disagree.
okay, fair enough.
If it might be better in the book, I just haven't read it. This is somebody coming in cold. I sort of.
Same sort of thing happens, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I've been wrong before. uh,
It lost a little at the. It did lose a little at the end, but that opening of that final episode
yeah,
had me on the edge of my seat.
yeah. But yeah, it's a good miniseries. Before I've got a question for you guys. But did anyone want to pipe up about what they've read or seen lately before I move on to
Sure.
that?
I'll take a turn.
Okay, Bridget.
I have been reading There Will Be Time based on your recommendation.
Awesome! I finally talked someone into reading it.
I found a used copy. I'm about 3/4 of the way through, and I really like it so far. It's definitely getting really good.
I just leveled up in life by having someone read it.
You got somebody to read those suggestions. No, I'm enjoying it. Outsiders, yes, I watched that too, and I loved the book too. I listened to it on audiobook probably about a year ago, and it was one of the few audiobooks that after I got home from my commute, I kept listening to it because it was really good. I liked the last episode up until the last few minutes.
Oh yes, the
Without spoilers.
the mid-credit scene. This is not happening in the book, and I think they're trying to get a season 2.
Yeah.
But I absolutely despised it. And even Kelly agreed with me on this one. He said that was totally unnecessary.
I agree, and I can understand them wanting to do a season 2, but please no, because I just feel like they would have to come up with something out of thin air,
Well,
and it wouldn't be the same.
they could do a season 2, but they don't have to do it that way. It just,
Yeah,
I hated it.
no.
She's such a great character, you know?
She is. Let's do another if they do a season 2, maybe they can do it on that novella.
I really loved her in the book, and I loved her in the miniseries, Outsider miniseries. And again, this is the first time I've seen this actress. I don't even remember her name, but she was phenomenal in the Outsider miniseries.
I agree. She was perfect. When I was reading it, I was kind of visualizing somebody totally different, which didn't even really fit King's description. But in my mind, she was kind of an older lady. I guess probably because I'd seen that Conjuring, like the third one. That I can't remember the actress's name. Forgive me. But I was picturing her when I read the book for some random reason. But when I saw the miniseries, I loved that choice. She is great as well.
Well, I know why you pictured her as at least middle aged, because she's got a backstory, and a mentor who died, and she's been through some other supernatural occurrences that are implied in the book. So
Yeah, and
it seems like she'd be over 30 for sure. You know.
And so, to be clear, because she's in that Mr. Mercedes trilogy, which was also adapted into a TV show, and not that I mind, but they did change her from being like a 40-year-old white blonde lady to, into the Outsider, which I think it was a good move. But that might also be because her description, when it comes up, is it often talked about how pale she was because she doesn't go outside. So that may be why in your head you were thinking of I want to say in Mr. Mercedes she was in her late 30s, but I might be misremembering. I don't remember exactly. If it comes up, and I think in the TV show, Mike, she's in like her late 20s.
Yeah, she seemed really young.
Yeah, yeah. So who knows? I'm terrible at guessing ages by looking at someone, but just looking at that actress, I mean, I'm guessing mid-30s. I don't know if I'm off base or not. So
But definitely younger than the book version from the books is what I'm saying.
yes, absolutely. Anything else, Bridget?
Last week, speaking of Contagion movies, I saw Train to Busan.
Oh, goody.
It's so good. I don't know why I put off watching it. I'd heard it was kind of sad. It was kind of what we were talking about. Do we need another zombie movie? I don't know. But it was so good. I loved it. There was a particular scene that even more has become poignant lately where I don't think it gives too many spoilers away there's some heroes that are fighting through train cars full of zombies. And they get to this one train car that's full of everybody who's hiding out, and they're trying to join them, and the people won't let them join them because they said, no, they're infected. And of course, they're not infected. They've just made it through hell.
Right.
And these people, because of paranoia, won't let them onto their part of the train. And there's a lot of really great moments in that movie, but I found that one particularly poignant recently. Just like we talked about before, that it's not so much about the zombies, but how people behave in the apocalypse. And that movie is just
That's true. But, Kelly told me, I know you hate zombie movies, Mike, but you'll love this one.
It's really good.
I didn't love it, so
No?
no,
Aww.
but I can see why a lot of others would like it. It is a quality movie, but
Bridget, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, yay, pizza on my side.
It's one of the better zombie movies I've seen recently.
I'm just assuming that if Bridget and I disagree on something, that she's right and I'm wrong. So
You are. You are wrong.
I agree with Pete, Mike. You're wrong.
ouch.
Well, so the funny thing is what is it? The Kingdom on Netflix?
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. At least I really liked it.
What? Kingdom.
Oh my god. Sorry.
Is it? It's. I think it's set in China or Korea.
Korea, I think.
Korea. It's a medieval zombie movie
How have I not seen that?
of a zombie series. It's 2 seasons now.
Yeah, highly recommend. I mean, I've only seen the first season, but man, I loved it. It's beautiful.
Cool.
So
Okay, that's absolutely the allotted time for zombies on today's episode.
Oh.
Anybody else?
Wow.
well, so there was a zombie film.
Jesus. Should I move on to the next topic, or is there anybody else? Did I miss?
I just want to go back to two conversations.
Sure.
one of the actors we were talking about on the outside of this named Cassie Lemons, and she's also in Harriet, the movie about Harriet Tubman. And I'm going to see that. I'm going to watch that sometime this week because of she's in it. She's so good.
Okay.
And the other thing, I looked up Call Girls of Cthulhu,
Oh God.
and you're not credited, but you get a special thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
With about 100 other people.
These are the people who are not important. Yeah. Oh well. Okay. Mary Celeste.
Yeah,
You guys are
vote for the
you guys
person.
are familiar with that
Often
legend.
inaccurately called Marie Celeste, but it's Mary.
So I really like this concept of food was left on the table, coffee was still warm, and suddenly everyone just disappeared. And I'm wondering if there. I know that there are, but does it spring to mind any other similar type stories? Do you guys know of any?
Well, there's a legend that the urban legend about Machu Picchu that's the same thing.
Hmm.
That the first people there found, food, essentially, utensils on the tables and decayed food. Like this whole place was just emptied out in a
That's,
minute.
is that the same as the legend for Roanoke, Virginia?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
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 With,
Go ahead.
I was just saying, and then there's like a bunch of like ghost towns from both the Old West and then the Great Depression, where like in the middle of the Great Depression, someone would go into a town and everyone had left the town, but they'd left it in such a way that you would find like dinner was set up and ready. And then people just got up and left for whatever reason and no one knows.
Yeah.
Now
Dean
that you
Koontz-
guys are talking about this, Phantoms starts out that way.
Well, Dean Koontz is the writer of Phantoms. I was just going to bring up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So in the book, The Phantoms, he uses this as the whole concept as a premise for the discussion of a book called The Ancient Enemy, which is supposedly this thing that comes up from the ground and just devours everybody and then disappears.
Well, on a
Shoggoth.
like micro level, it makes me think of Dyatlov Pass. Like they just left everything in the tent and just left.
And then
That's
you
what
Lord
I,
knows
I was
why.
thinking of, the Russian. It was like the 1950s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the movie is also, I mean, it's a B movie, but it's surprisingly good if you go into it,
It is.
knowing
It's
that.
really good.
Yeah. When I saw that movie, and it has another name. I forget what it's called, but
No, I think it's
Oh.
Phantoms, the movie.
no, Dyatlov Pass.
Oh,
Oh,
I think
I'm
it's
sorry.
called Devil's Pass, the
Devils.
movie, which is actually
Yeah.
kind of good. It's kind of a
Yeah.
good movie.
The
Yeah.
Devil's Pass, yeah.
Yeah, the way that they just what happens in that film made me think of Dimensional Shamblers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
This
You've said
this
that
is how you
before.
make Dimensional Shamblers.
Yeah.
And that also reminds me of Silent Hill, the first video game and the terrible movie that they tried to adapt it into, where people are sort of pulled into another dimension,
Mm-hmm.
which is based on, I can't remember which town. There's a coal town where the coal mine,
Pennsylvania.
it's still burning today. There's like 6 people that still live there and they're not supposed to. But
Yep.
basically, all the fumes and everything and the danger, everyone was forced to evacuate immediately. That was clean, at least. So
Yeah.
Or Chernobyl, right? Chernobyl Diaries.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's-
Well,
as I say,
well-
just to get back to the original Mary Celeste,
Yes.
there have been explanations for it. In fact, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, first significant story was an explanation for Mary Celeste. And he's the person largely responsible for it being misconstrued as Marie Celeste.
Hmm.
But on Doctor Who, the Daleks got rid of the crew.
Well, now this is the news that you guys have been dying to hear for years. So here it is from Bloody Disgusting. The title is brand new Scream movie is officially happening.
wait. So how did we? Why did you bring up the Mary Celeste?
I told you why I brought it up.
No, you didn't.
I'm interested in the concept. I was wondering
Oh,
about
okay.
similar stories.
All
Just
right.
sitting around thinking about the Mary Celeste.
As we all do,
Yep.
as a person that will do.
All
So,
right.
yeah, well. And the Ready or Not filmmakers are directing. So,
For Scream.
Oh
Five.
yeah,
Scream,
okay.
Scream
Yeah, that was
5.
recent, wasn't it?
Scream 5, yeah. So, anyway, I know you guys are excited about that. Actually, I like the first Scream a lot. The second one wasn't too bad either.
And they're gonna bring back,
Nev Campbell.
yeah,
I don't know.
that
I was traumatized by the first Scream movie because the first time I saw Skeet Ulrich was in Touch, and he was just so sweet and lovely. And then I saw Scream, and I was like, oh,
that's why they made him the bad guy,
I guess so. Yeah.
so he wouldn't freak you out.
Yeah. Um, Man, I wish I could talk about Picard, but I can't. We'll do an episode later about Picard, but
Give it about a week.
yeah, that's
Well, there's
that's so
only two
Lovecraftian.
Or I should say there's one at two-parter left with Picard, so we're almost at the end.
Yes. So next Thursday we will find out what's going on. Here's some news I've been waiting to hear. Didn't know was coming. Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson returns in March 2020. National Geographic Channel. And Anne Druin, who I think most of you know was Carl Sagan's wife, um, is an executive producer. And it's not clear, I'm not sure. I haven't seen the first episode yet. But it's called Cosmos Possible Worlds. The ship of the imagination will carry us places we never dared to venture before. Lost worlds and worlds to come, deep into the future, and straight through the hole in the curtain masking other realities, and all of it rigorously informed by science and made real by visual effects. So, yeah.
Well, I hope he does better than Brian Greene, because that's the bar that got set with the Elegant Universe and
Yeah.
Fabric of the Cosmos. So far I've been underwhelmed by the shows that Tyson does, but I mean, at least when compared to Brian Greene, because I think nowadays Brian Greene is the master of, putting that at a layman's level, putting all those concepts.
He is, and you know what? I'm really not excited that he's in this show. I'm excited to watch Anne Druin in this show, and I think she's going to be on the show and running the ship of imagination. Which, if you saw the first Cosmos, you know what that is. So, so there's that. Any other topics, guys?
Just one last thing about Tyson.
Yes.
He is responsible for Pluto being reclassified as a planet,
Mm-hmm.
which means he's not popular on Yaga.
And I was gonna say the Bungie of Yoda, gotta hate that guy. Jeez.
Yeah.
No strange joy for him.
That's true, and there's a possible big 10th planet way in the outer reaches of the solar system. So, I guess we'll find out.
That was actually Shagai in a James Wade story.
You guys want to talk about anything else coming up? Anything like that? Okay. Yes.
Nope. Nope. I've changed my mind. Nope.
Oh no, Pete.
Mike-
Pete, you can do
Mike,
it.
you should mention your son's. Assuming we continue doing the show on Wednesdays, the role-playing game.
Yeah.
Lo-
If you, we're playing Call of Cthulhu. Me, Ben, Mike DeBronzo, Logan, my son is the. They're not called DMs in Call of Cthulhu, are they? What are they called?
Keepers.
Keepers. Yes, Logan's the keeper. Who am I missing? Oh, Lyle and somebody else. I think whoever it is going to kill me.
I love that game. I wish I had time.
Well,
I
anyway,
envy you guys.
our first episode was this past Wednesday. We do them. You can watch us live, or watch the recorded version later every Wednesday it's live at 6 o'clock Eastern, and it's not live here on my channel. It's live on Logan's Twitch channel.
Hmm.
And I just shared that link in the chat.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's twitch.tv dot, just like it sounds, Arkham Cookie. So, yeah. So if you want to watch us play Call of Cthulhu and make fools of ourselves, um, that could be your Wednesday evening entertainment.
No, I routinely make a fool of myself on Wednesday nights.
So you don't need us for that.
No, I don't need you. We play Well, I take my girls over and we play trivia at the bar. We play bar trivia with my 10 and 11-year-old.
So are you going to be in the second game a few months from now?
No, this is what we do on Wednesday nights.
You're dead to me.
Anymore, it isn't. You're not going to be playing bar trivia for a while now.
Oh shit, you're right.
Yeah. I'm telling you right now, none of you are busy anymore on Wednesday. Logan does a really good job of running the games. He's got an interesting story.
Yep.
Check it out.
He's doing you a favor here.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm gonna have to reassess things very soon.
Yeah, I'm trying to help you, Pete.
I hear you. You know.
Okay. So
I
yeah.
made a mistake.
So we'll talk about the elephant in the room. It's a scary time, obviously, and we don't know where we're going to end up. If it's going to be this major thing for the next 6 months, or if things will calm down in 3 or 4 weeks. I think really it could go either way, and there's arguments to be made either way. I don't want to discuss politics on this, but hopefully we'll get more tests out there soon in the United States, so that people can find out if they're sick. I think you have to have a doctor's referral to do that right now, anyway, to get that test in the United States. Of course, that may change too. Everything's so fluid. So I guess my first question is, and this goes for the people who are watching live, if you want to type something or if you just want to listen, how's everybody doing with all of this?
I've got kind of a heartening anecdote, which I just found out today.
All right.
One of my friends who I've been worried sick about, because she's got a lot of, underlying conditions and whatnot, and her parents are, way worse, and of course, older. I've just found out that they did, in fact, all have it and have all four come through it. So,
yeah.
Super happy to find that out, because I've been so worried about her.
Well, I think the current evidence is that it's not getting children, really. Mm-hmm. And if you're, and keyword is this, what I'm going to say, this sentence here, if you're a reasonably healthy adult, not elderly, then even if you get it, the odds are heavily in your favor that it's not going to kill you. Heavily in your favor. Okay, that doesn't mean we shouldn't take this seriously. Obviously, we should. Reasonably healthy adult. Okay, so that wouldn't be me, for example. But it would probably be, that's a lot of people out there. If you're elderly, that's different. It's the death ratio is higher. So I don't know. I think we just have to take this one day at a time and see what happens.
And I'd agree about so right now, especially in the next few days, as more people are getting tested, you're going to hear some really scary news, because it takes a few days for the media to catch up with the actual statistics going on. Mm-hmm. But it is important to just try to keep in mind that, we don't have the complete story right now. So, for example, right now, the mortality rate sounds really high. But part of that is because we're barely testing anyone in the United States. So just try to keep that in mind as you go through. And
yeah, because that ratio is being compared to the people that we know have it.
Right. And so there are a lot of people that have it and are coming through it and are fine, and we just don't hear about them. The only ones we're hearing about currently in the United States, this will change, is the extremely serious cases, because those are the only people even getting tested. But and don't panic buy toilet paper, please. This is
oh my God.
So,
yeah.
I saw a lady buy 2 36-packs of the mega size Charmin, and she'd said that was the 7th store she'd gone to buy toilet paper, because they kept limiting her. And I don't know, is she buying toilet paper for this pandemic, the next 10 years and the next pandemic we're going to hit in like 2029.
Yeah,
Is that a cheaper way to build a new house, maybe?
yeah.
I don't
The
I don't
current
know.
wisdom is there is enough for everyone if people just take what they need. Walmart isn't, can be empty, but they restock at night, for example.
Yeah, and there's nothing is hurting the supply line. So if you went to the store yesterday and there was no toilet paper, ask the store when they're getting restocked, and then go on the day they get restocked, go early in the morning, and you'll get toilet paper.
I've been saying since this started that I'm not really. We have to take this seriously, but I'm more concerned about people panicking and the reaction, people's reaction to this, than I am about the coronavirus itself. Um, you know, these things like buying toilet paper and, you know, uh, I've heard of hospitals being, the IV bags being stolen, things like that. What do you need with an IV bag? It's just crazy. So,
It's causing a lot of shortages that you really don't see the need for it to cause a shortage.
yeah,
You can't buy any meat where I live.
yeah.
Yeah,
But,
so
yeah.
I think let's look at this. All right, so we've been looking at this since probably late December or January where I'm at. So I would look at, if you're going to compare this to something, look at the Spanish flu, 1918. This is not an influenza virus, it's a coronavirus. So it's much slower, it's not as communicable as the 1918 virus. But overall, the lower estimates of 1918 dead were about 17 million. The general estimates, which I ascribe to more, would be between 50 and 100 million people dead worldwide. So in the U.S., for instance, the mortality rate overall for Spanish flu was between 2.5% to 4% overall. In the U.S. in 1918, it was probably 0.5% mortality rate. So it was probably 600,000 or more dead in 1918 out of a population of about 128 million or so. So looking at coronavirus, overall, you've got about the same mortality rate as the 1918 flu. So, but it's a very targeted demographic. The scary thing about 1918 was it was most people who died were between 20 and 40, the healthy. And
Really?
we still don't know why. Yes.
Wow.
For this,
Yeah, that's what made it so dire. Yeah.
For this, it is the elderly, and it's not children, really. It's not the weakest like regular flu kills. The very young, the very old. This is more focused on the very old, it seemed. But I would still take it very seriously, because most of us, if we get it, unless you have an underlying condition, you're going to recover. But the issue is you bring it to your parents or your grandparents, right? In this country, we will have a much lower rate than the 2 to 4% globally. In the U.S., we'll have a good rate once we're able to test regularly. And if we follow the South Korean or Singaporean model, we'll get through this. My estimate is that we're probably right now where China was in late December, early January. China, Shanghai Disney is already reopening in a phased reopening. Tourist sites are, gradually being reopened in China, which tells me
they've leveled off. Yeah.
Whereas our Disney parks and Universal Studios have closed, within the last week. So I would say my thinking is that we'll probably be at the height of the panic, probably next month.
Call from 180.
Into June. I'm thinking May. Things will begin to die down and we'll go back to normal. Now, we saw for the toilet paper runs, we were kind of laughing a few weeks ago, because the first we saw of this was in Australia, where there were toilet paper runs and the newspapers were printing an extra, 8 pages or so of blank pages so people could use them for toilet paper. And then, here it hits here. And I think part of that is there's a lot of confusion about what the threat is, what it's not, people taking it seriously versus people taking it not. I think if we have a general population that doesn't take it seriously, you end up like Italy, where modern health system's on the verge of collapse. You take it seriously and listen to, authorities who are trying to get things done, then maybe we end up like South Korea, Singapore, where we get a handle on this very quickly. Even China.
Well,
So I'm looking at we probably have another 6 weeks or so, 6 to 8 weeks at the outset. I
well,
think, and then things will be back to normal.
I think it boils down to do take this seriously. Do isolate yourself if you can. In your home. Not everybody can do that. A lot of people have jobs. But take it seriously, but don't panic. You know what I mean? This is going to pass sooner or later. In the meantime, like I said in my post, I think doing the show every week is an important thing, especially now. We're all talking, but if one of you has the coronavirus, I can't catch it from you through the monitor. So,
All right. So on that note,
yes.
You got something to tell us, Pete? Huh?
No. But yes. So last Monday,
Dun dun dun.
my 12-year-old stayed home because she wasn't feeling well. She went to school Tuesday. She got sent home from school because she looked like hell.
Aw, poor thing.
So Wednesday, she finally got a doctor's appointment. And after being sent home from the doctor with laryngitis, they called back and said, "You have tested positive for influenza A."
Okay.
But it was a weak positive, indicating that she likely had influenza maybe a week or two ago, not current.
Oh yeah, my kids recently had B, and I know some other kids who had A, so it just complicates things even more because our little ones currently have the flu right now.
And in case you haven't been watching, the pollen count in this country right now is incredibly high. So there are conflicting and overlapping symptomologies.
It's really been bothering Logan and Danielle a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
their allergies.
The position I'm in, well, we're in, is that Mandy's father is 80 years old, and Mandy's grandmother is 90 years old. So, yes, we had to shop for us, but then we had to shop for people who are in the high risk category, who are very particular about wanting their special Charmin.
Oh God, I'm sorry, dude.
And their special pancake mix. And we're like, you have no idea what it's like out there right now.
I have not gone out to the store since this started, and I will attempt not to do so. But we're getting low on milk. I'll say that. So.
Well, 2 weeks ago I bought powdered milk, just because I know that I will have water. I can make milk if I have to.
Yeah.
It's a little things. And everybody, I put this whole list together, and people thought I was crazy. But you know what? All that stuff is gone now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not hoarding stuff, but
yeah, you don't have eight. You don't have eight baskets of toilet paper. I'm assuming.
So we went to Costco last Tuesday.
Yeah.
And there was no toilet paper.
Wow, that soon? It just started here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're having the same problem here in Indiana. Same deal. Like, every day we're like, okay, so Target on the north side currently has 3 packets left. Yeah.
So we had my daughter assess our situation. They're like, what do we have in the garage? She comes back. She's like, we have 72 double rolls.
Holy crap!
We should be okay for a while, but because that's just the level that we buy at, So
yeah, and I think that one thing to expect, with this needless panicking is I think people are just uninformed, and that's why they panic. And to be honest, most people are a little bit lazy, right? I myself included, right? You don't look into the things. You just hurry up, get a quick tweet or a blurb on your favorite website, and then that's what you go with.
Right.
I would say that you're probably going to see more use of the National Guard throughout this country, just like New Rochelle. Um, there's talk now that they want to shut New York City down. Um, so that's why I went up and got my daughter and her roommates out. So they're staying at the house.
Mm-hmm.
They're here for a couple of months now. They're already on mandatory telework. They work for some marketing firms there in Manhattan. So,
Wait a minute.
and then
You have grown-up daughters?
I have a grown-up daughter. She's 23. She graduated from college last year, but her roommates, one also works and one is a senior in the college where my daughter went. So I went and grabbed them today.
I thought you
brought
were like
them down.
35 or something.
No, I'm 50.
Oh, okay.
50.
Never mind.
So I went and brought them down today, and as we were leaving, the mayor said that he's thinking of quarantining New York City. So
Well, you think that's bad, Rich? I got something worse.
I don't think it's necessarily bad as long as you let the logistics keep coming in and delivering, as long as the supply chain keeps moving.
No, I'm saying
National Guard-
there's some things that are worse. I mean, you should see the list of canceled TV shows and delayed TV shows. And they can't make Baby Yoda right now. Production on Baby Yoda has stopped. My God, where does it end?
Tragedy.
No, you know what's going to be really good? It's like 18 No, I'm sorry. There's 20 seasons of Midsummer. Just bite the bullet.
You have at it. That's okay. Now, go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry.
Let's say, Rich, where do you live?
I live in just outside of Washington, D.C.,
Okay.
which is where I work. I work in D.C., so.
So it's a long ride from New York.
It is. I left early this morning. It's about between 4 and 5 hours. Got there. The girls were waiting for me when I pulled up. I didn't even have to get out of the car. I popped the hatch on the GMC. They loaded it up, and we were out.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So, if these panic as far as buying stuff still goes on, we may have to have rationing.
I don't think the panic will go on that long. To be
I have
honest.
seen articles talking about how Walmart, H-E-B, other grocery stores are going to label some items, essentially ration some items, like toilet paper, like I forget what you call them. I'm blanking on those. The sanitizer, stuff like that.
We had one here,
sanitizers,
yeah.
paper towels, toilet paper, right? But we did this in World War II,
Yeah,
right?
no,
Rationing. I mean, this is. I mean, it might be new for us generation, right? In this age of abundance, it's new for them. But our grandparents were used to this, right? So
I'm more worried about food. It just shocked me that my wife came back from the grocery store when there was no meat.
that's the first I've heard that meat has been out. I've heard all about sanitizer and cleaning products being clean, and maybe some dry foods, but the meat has been stacked at all the grocery stores I've gone to.
But Rick, what about when did she go to the grocery store?
Today.
Okay, so maybe there'll be some meat at that same place first thing in the morning. I don't know.
So, in the 70s, I can remember my grandparents came down with rubeola, and they got quarantined, and like large number of people came down with rubeola, and they had yellow tape on their doors, and we had to deliver food to people, and you left it on their doorstep, and you walked away, and they came out and they got it and they took it inside. But Rich, you're right. I mean, so there was Spanish flu, there was a whole bunch of influenzas, there was polio. Our grandparents went through multiple disasters like this, but since the 50s we've been relatively isolated and insulated from this stuff, except like HIV/AIDS
and gas lines in the 70s, that sort of thing.
Yeah, we had the energy crisis during Carter's administration. We did have a massive flu epidemic in the late 60s, I think '67 or '68.
Yeah.
But there's a vaccine to the flu, which
but
is different.
since then, we've really not, other than in the early, I mean, really most of the issues we've dealt with infectious diseases have been since the 21st century, whether it's SARS, MERS, swine flu, avian flu.
You know what?
But you have to understand that the global supply chain now is really, it is so, it's timed so perfect, and we are so good. And one thing I would advise any of our listeners or watchers of this is to read up on. There's a great book about the journey of a T-shirt being made in China and how it gets here. When you understand the global supply chain, 98% or more of trade is maritime. It is not via air, right?
Right.
So what you really want to look at, if you really want to see what the potential for disruption is, I would look at our people at the various global superports throughout the world, particularly in Asia. Are they not showing up for work? I don't think that's happening here. So I would say, yeah, you might have a little bit of disruption of the international global supply chain, especially coming from China right now. But as they come out of this, factories will reopen, goods will start flowing again. But within the U.S., the interstate supply chain, i.e., semi trucks delivering stuff to all the giants and Safeways and Trader Joe's and all the other, I think that's flowing fairly well. Now, in the case where people need to be quarantined, it gets really hard because now you've got to screen people going into that quarantine zone to deliver stuff and then get them out. But that's only happened for one city so far. I expect we'll see a little bit more of that. But I expect as the more we do it, the more efficient we're going to really be, so that the supplies within the domestic supply chain, I would be surprised if it really got that disrupted.
I think this all boils down to don't panic, don't overbuy. Think of the elderly people who can't get more toilet paper, things like that, and realize above all that this too will pass. Now I'm doing this every Sunday with you guys, and I appreciate you being here because I think it's important for the listeners and for us to have a place where we can go to every Saturday, or excuse me, every Sunday, or for anyone who listens later, and hey, here's some escape from all this, or when we talk about it, we don't, we're not panicked about it, and we just tell you, hey, we're all going through this together is the main point,
right.
and that it'll pass.
Yeah.
This reminds me of a line in Salem's Lot by Stephen King, of course, where the vampire says to someone in the novel that the people in this country, any sorrow that they have known in recent years has been the sorrow of a child who dropped an ice cream cone, and it's gone. They can't eat it. It's nothing like, think of being alive in World War II, World War One. So we can get through this. So
yeah, I think absolutely. The only thing is it's really interesting because in the last 10 years or so, there's a lot of great business, books about business coming out, and we've talked about the wisdom of the crowd, right? So unfortunately, in this case, the wisdom of the crowd is working against us because people see things happening. Why are the Australians making a run on TP, right?
Yeah.
Toilet paper, and all of a sudden
it's a vicious cycle.
They must know something that we don't, because I'm not hearing anything from leadership, in where I'm at. So there must be something to it. If you trust the crowd overall, they're probably going to make the right decision. The herd mentality is all about survival. They must know something I don't, so therefore I'm going to do this.
I don't trust the crowd. So,
it is actually the theory that I had too, why people just randomly decided to focus on toilet paper. I think they heard about it, this kind of sort of funny thing, and internalized it. And then, once they're getting kind of, just naturally anxious because this is all strange and new, they focus on this one thing that they feel like they can control. I think that's literally what it is.
Well, there's also, it doesn't take a huge, so, if there's 10,000 people at Costco, but only 1,000 people look for toilet paper and they buy it all. That means 9,000 people who went for their regular stock didn't get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And all of a sudden,
And then on the other hand,
then now they're panicked. Right?
that's the negative side of humanity, you might say. On the other hand, I'll just speak about my briefly, and then I'll get off this topic. But I'll, there is a restaurant here in town called the Moon Tower. It's kind of a bar slash restaurant. And the other day, my wife, who's a school teacher, she loves her kids, and she's very concerned. There's some low income kids in her classes, and she's very concerned with how are they going to eat, because a lot of these kids, they get their main source of food is school. And she was very worried about this. And a restaurant here called the Moon Tower, I really respect these guys, what they did. They said that every day from 11 till 3 while school is out, they will give any child from 3 to 18 any student, excuse me, from 3 to 18 a free meal, no questions asked, as long as you've got your student card with you and you can prove you're a student here at Corsicana High School. Well, yeah, there's a negative side to humanity. All this fear and buying tons of toilet paper for no reason, and then there are people like this. And I think it's important to remember that we do have some really good people out there who are trying to help. So, and
Absolutely.
and people like Melissa, who's not here today, she's working. She's a nurse, and my wife and I were talking about this. That the people who are in the healthcare, medical, in hospitals, the healthcare industries, and so on and so forth. They're the real heroes here, because they have no choice but to go to work. Otherwise, how are people going to get helped? And they're exposing themselves to possible cases. They don't have the luxury of being able to sit at home like my wife and I and my son can do. And, again, I think what they're doing is very heroic. So, yeah.
I was thinking about something similar. Is that tomorrow I have to go into the office. I have to get a VPN fob, and I'll be sent home and work from home.
Mhm.
That's great. I can do that. But a lot of people in my office who go out and collect environmental samples can't do that from home. They have to go out.
Right.
The chemists who analyze those samples have to go to the lab and do that stuff. There is a white collar work is suddenly you're able to do that at home.
Yes.
That is a privilege that a lot of people don't have.
That's right.
And
I think
that's an interesting problem.
Yeah, and I think whatever you focus on becomes larger in your mind. If you allow your mind to focus on, oh man, I hope I don't get the coronavirus, or, any negative thing, we have to be realistic and know that there's a possibility of these things happening. But if you focus on, hey, look at what this restaurant's doing. Look at what the healthcare, what the EMTs, the doctors, the nurses are doing.
Yeah.
We're all supposed to be there for each other.
Well, and here's the thing is, okay, so if you are capable of staying home and staying out of the public, what you can think about it this way is that by A, not putting yourself in harm's way, and B, not putting yourself in the path of possibly coming down with coronavirus, you are not putting yourself in the hospital.
Yeah.
Which, we need to maintain the hospitals free and clear for the people who are actually going to need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other idea behind all this self-isolation is not just, I want to keep myself from getting the coronavirus. It is that. But if we all do this, that are able to do this, it will slow it's not going to stop the coronavirus. It will slow it down, though. So hopefully,
Right.
any patients that need to go to the hospital because they have the coronavirus, it's not all happening at once. It's spread out.
Right. A guy I know last week, his dad got a heart transplant. Because
He
you
can't
can't.
he can't get coronavirus because he has to take drugs that prevent his immune system from
Right.
rejecting it, which
Right.
makes his immune system really low. That's a high risk, person.
Right. But on the flip side, it's like, well, somebody's, oh, well, you could have just not gotten the heart transplant. It's like, no, when that heart becomes available,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
you don't have a choice.
No. Mhm.
So, you
Yeah,
know,
I will say this, that as long as I know we talk about social distancing and then you see us all close together in lines at the grocery store waiting,
Right.
as we have our 2 hour waits, in the grocery store. But as long as when we're sick, we self quarantine and we don't break ourselves,
right.
a quarantine, right? So coronavirus has flu-like symptoms, but the difference would be if you have chest pains, right? Because it's your lungs,
And fever.
right? That and fever, but flu gives you fever as well. So I would say that the one difference between flu and coronavirus are the chest pains. You have pain in your lungs as it suffers. I would say, at that point, okay, quarantine yourself, and if you can get tested, get tested. But otherwise, if we just do what we're supposed to do, we won't end up like Italy, and we'll end up taking care of each other just by doing the right thing and quarantining ourselves for a couple of days until we're done with this.
Yeah.
So, but I honestly think once we get all the testing kits available and we realize, I guarantee the extent is probably far greater than what we think it is right now.
Right.
I would estimate that between official and just globally, any numbers you hear officially, I'd multiply it by about 4 to get a closer to the average. But that's not necessarily scary because remember, most of us are going to recover from this, except for a very specific demographic, whether it's age or whether they have underlying conditions. So thank goodness this isn't flu. This is corona. This is, as awful as it is to say, this is the actual kind of pandemic we want.
Well, and the other thing,
study it.
the other thing just remembered just now is there's also a run on antibacterial soap. This is a virus.
Right.
It's not bacterial. I
That's
want to
true.
get.
Although, Mike, I would say that when you get the virus, it's usually the bacteria that causes pneumonia, not the virus, unless the virus weakens you to the point that bacteria gets in there and causes pneumonia. However, so I get why people want antibacterial. Soap
well,
and
I think
et cetera.
antibacterial soap is basically just expensive soap. Soap gets the.
Yeah, as far as I know, soap
It's
period is
bougie soap.
great.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so anyway, I'd like to get off this, but I just want to say to you guys, to everybody listening, whether you're watching live, watching later, listening in your car later, is that, hey, everybody, we're going to be here for you and hopefully provide an escape, put a smile on your face once a week. We're all in this together. We're a community. Let's, just be safe. We want everybody to be safe. So.
We should do like a night of readings.
It's a good idea. Actually, I need to schedule this, but Jeff Thomas and Scott Thomas are going to do a night, not a Sunday night, but a night of live ghost story readings.
oh,
So,
wow.
yeah. But yeah, email me about that, Pete. Don't let me forget. We should do more readings. That'd be fun. So,
And I will tell you that my brother posted on Facebook about me. The reason nobody knew about coronavirus is because I was too busy reading H.P. Lovecraft and listening to Echo and the Bunnymen's B-sides.
well, next week we've
So I
got
apologize.
Alan Baxter, great writer, and we've also got Akira, no last name, that I know of, but he's one of the translators for the book The Flock of Bahui, BA-HUI, which is
Chinese Cthulhu mythos.
yeah,
Stories.
Chinese Lovecraftian stories translated, and so it'll be really interesting to talk to him. Actually, he was going to be. I should stop there. I don't even know if it's a he or a she. There's two translators. One's on the other side of the world. And he said I really can't do the podcast, but the guy in the United States is a curator, and he can. I think it's a he. But anyway, regardless, I asked him if we could postpone them until next week because I know Matthew Carpenter has been talking about this for years. That there's a whole lot of Lovecraftian stories out there that we don't know about that are written in other languages.
Yeah.
And
I mean, France, Denmark, Norway, South America, Mexico. There's just a huge Lovecraftian community.
Yeah. So I really did not want to interview this person without Matt Carpenter being here, and he couldn't make it today. So.
Yeah.
All right. So that's who we've got next week. I think we're done for today. Anybody else have a last minute thing they need to say? No?
We're gonna be okay.
That's right.
Yeah, but Mike, we really should talk about like doing like 5-minute story reads.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a great idea, man.
Or poetry.
Email me tonight and I'll reply and let's work out a plan or something.
Okay.
So
I want to get involved in the readings too.
yes,
Me
absolutely.
too.
All of you are invited. So, and Jeff Thomas and Scott Thomas are going to read a couple of their ghost stories, I believe. So, the author has given them permission to read the stories. All right. Thanks, and we will see all of you next week. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching.